Alright, so for 3 decades now, Power Rangers have been saving the day. But let's be real, the way they do it has changed. A lot. We're talking about a journey from fighting goofy, street-level monsters to dazzling literal gods. The power scale has gotten absolutely insane, and today, we're going to break down that whole epic evolution.
I mean, this is the big question, right? How in the world did we get from a bunch of teenagers fighting those silly putty monsters in some random rock quarry to heroes who can straight up rewrite reality? That massive jump, that power creep, is exactly what we're going to unpack.
So first up, from teens to gods. This whole journey from being local heroes to full-on cosmic deities, it's a wild ride. Let's really look at just how big that leap was.
Okay, this right here really puts it all into perspective. Back in 1993, being strong enough to lift a tank, that was the absolute peak of a Ranger's power. Fast forward 30 years, and now they're taking on bad guys who can erase entire universes. No joke. The difference is just astronomical.
So you've got to be wondering, how is any of this even possible? How do you get so many different teams with all these different powers, all under the same umbrella? Well, it all boils down to one single core concept.
The Morphin Grid. This is the secret sauce, the magic ingredient, the whole shebang. Think of it as this cosmic energy field that powers everything, and I mean everything, from the original Dino coins all the way to the newest cosmic orbs. And here's the kicker. Because it exists across all time, space, and realities, its potential for power is, you guessed it, basically infinite.
Okay, now we get to the really fun part. Let's actually track the key moments, the specific seasons that just tore up the old rulebook and cranked the Ranger power level up to 11.
So these 5 eras right here, these are the biggest game changers in the franchise's history. We start with Mighty Morphin, the foundation. Then we get Zeo, the first real evolution. After that, Dino Thunder comes along and just breaks physics. Dino Charge rewrites history itself. And finally, Cosmic Fury hits that god-tier level. Let's start at the beginning, shall we?
1993. Back then, things were pretty straightforward. The Mighty Morphin team was super strong for sure, but they were Earth's defenders, plain and simple. Their threats were contained to Angel Grove, city-level stuff. For anything bigger than a giant monster, they had to call in the Megazords. They really set the baseline for what a Ranger could do.
Then, just a few years later, Power Ranger Zeo comes along and introduces this totally revolutionary idea. The Zeo crystals weren't just a one-and-done power source. Nope, they were designed to get stronger and stronger over time, forever. This was the first time we saw a huge, intentional power-up in the show's history.
And then, Dino Thunder happened. This is where the power scale didn't just bend, it completely shattered. We're not just talking about being a little stronger or a little faster anymore. We're talking about powers that just laugh in the face of physics. And the biggest one, the one that changed the game forever, one Ranger could literally stop time. That changed absolutely everything.
And just when you thought stopping time was the craziest it could get, Dino Charge walks in and says, "Hold my Energem." These things weren't just powerful artifacts. They were pure, raw pieces of the Morphin Grid itself. This gave the Rangers the power to, well, alter reality. They literally stopped the extinction of the dinosaurs and remade the planet. That's not just superhero stuff anymore, that is straight-up divine intervention.
And that brings us to the culmination of it all, the Cosmic Fury Rangers. These guys don't just use the Morphin Grid, they tap directly into the power of the Morphin Masters, the ancient beings who actually created the grid in the first place. Think about that. They're wielding divine, multiversal energy to fight villains threatening all of existence. This is the absolute peak of Ranger power, at least for now.
Okay, so we've seen all these incredible power-ups. The big question is, how do they all stack up against each other? Let's settle the debate and look at the definitive ranking.
And here it is. This ranking pretty much confirms the whole journey we've been on. At number 1, no surprise, is the raw, divine power of the Morphin Masters. Right behind that, you've got the reality-rewriting Energems and the time-bending Dino Gems. And look at that, the ever-growing Zeo crystals are still legendary, holding their own in the top tier. What a list.
All right, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. When you lay out this entire 30-year evolution, the progression is just, wow, it's crystal clear.
Just look at this. When you map it out like this, the progression is undeniable. It's so clean.
We go from city-level threats to planet-level to galactic, and then the whole concept of power just shifts, right? It's not about physical threats anymore. It's about controlling time, rewriting reality, and finally defending the entire multiverse. It's just wild.
And hey, if you want to boil it down even further, here it is in 6 simple steps. They started by fighting monsters, then they were saving the Earth, then the galaxy, then they started changing time, then rewriting reality, and finally, they're basically fighting to control the universe. You just can't get more epic than that escalation. So, we get to the final and maybe most important question. Why? Why does all this power creep work? And why has this show lasted for over 30 years?
You know, the answer is actually baked right into the show's DNA. It's the Morphin Grid. Because the grid is infinite, the potential for new teams, new powers, and new universes is also infinite. It's the perfect storytelling device. The show can constantly reinvent itself, get bigger and crazier, without ever breaking its own core rule. The grid basically guarantees that the power can always get bigger.
And that, my friends, leaves us with one final, mind-bending thought. After a 30-year journey from lifting tanks to defending the entire multiverse, what on earth comes after God tier? Seriously, what could possibly be next?